Mike?
Sue?
Mike?
Sue?
Mike, where are you?
Ah! The horror!
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Kris Slakter.
My name is Michael O'Rourke.
And this is 3, 2, 1, The Horror of Alien by Ridley Scott. We have the mining ship Nostromo with its crew complement of 7 on its way back to Earth when suddenly the ship receives an unusual transmission, and this transmission causes everybody to awaken out of hypersleep early so that they can go explore it. This brings the crew to a world that they have never encountered before, that is completely unfamiliar, and their journey there ultimately results in lots of death, gore, and visit from an alien. I love this movie. The difference between this film and others that we've reviewed so far, in general, is that it's really a masterpiece on so many levels. I like a lot of horror movies that maybe wouldn't necessarily be considered good films by the casual observer, but they're fun. Alien is just a really, really well-made film.
This movie is one of those movies where I feel like it's pretty much a near-perfect movie. There's not really much wrong with it at all. Any nitpicks I would have about it are like just so minor and inconsequential. Like, it's not a big deal. It just gets so much right. Like, especially with all the imitators it's had.
Yeah.
Throughout, like, ever since it came out.
I completely agree. I mean, the film has pretty much everything. The cinematography is beautiful. The character design is scary. It's terrifying, honestly. The acting is incredible. The story is really interesting.
The overall look of the movie, I really like how the camera is very, like, slow-moving, steady, long shots. It's weirdly got color to it, where it's like a lot of blues and red hues, especially with all the long shots, like down the corridors, through all the spaces, through the alien ship when they get there.
Yeah.
It really gives you a sense of space.
It's
like,
very atmospheric.
Yeah.
Really quickly, since we are talking about these long shots, I just want to say that if any of you end up watching the director's cut of Alien, a lot of these longer shots are actually reduced. So keep that in mind, that's going to be just a little bit different. I'm not saying it's a huge difference, but it just changes the film slightly.
I personally don't prefer the director's cut. I actually like the theatrical cut better. I think they kind of assumed that modern audiences have attention span problems, and I think that's why they cut down a lot of those earlier shots.
I feel like the main thing that the director's cut changes story-wise is, like you said, there's just a little bit of inserting a scene here and there where it kind of establishes earlier on that Ripley is going to be the main character. Ripley is played by Sigourney Weaver, and this is just a powerhouse role for her. Something I really like about this film is you have such a great ensemble cast. I think that it's really cool that you don't know going through the movie who is going to be, maybe the sole survivor by the end of it, And so I think that you start, getting attached to all of the characters and kind of learning about their different quirks without necessarily being able to be like, oh, this person lives.
It doesn't really have a main character. Sigourney Weaver nowadays is obviously kind of considered to be the face of the Alien franchise with all the sequels. But when you watch this movie by itself, she just happens to be the one person who survives. It's not specifically about her throughout most of the movie. It's more about the group of people trying to survive and getting picked off one by one. The cast in this movie is great. So obviously you have Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. She's just such a great actress. And it's just really such a joy to watch her in this movie. And then acting alongside Ian Holm, John Hurt, Vanessa Cartwright, like some of these more established actors at the time.
Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah. Yaphet Kotto. Yeah, it's just a great cast. I really like Yaphet Kotto and Harry Dean Stanton.
God.
The duo of the engineer people.
Yeah.
Who are just always disgruntled, complaining about how they want a bigger bonus, they want more money.
And what about the money? If you want to give me some money to do, I'd be happy to.
Complaining like, hey, if we weren't doing this stupid stuff, maybe our ship wouldn't be broken.
Right. The way they play off of each other is great.
Yeah. John Hurt actually doesn't have too much to do in this movie. He's just kind of there for most of it until he gets infected.
Oh, man.
And then he has his scene.
Full disclosure, I am a huge fan of John Hurt. I love his work. When the face hugger, snags onto him. You're like, whoa, this is something really scary and really unique. And then eventually later, when we actually see the teeny tiny alien explode out of him, that changed cinema history. It was so horrifying and so unexpected. And as far as my understanding goes, I believe that when that was shot, the other actors in the scene didn't actually know exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So their exclamations and their cries of terror are pretty authentic. So I just think it would have been the funniest thing being John Hurt, knowing what was about to happen and that nobody else had any idea what was going on. That is one of the most iconic moments in film history. It has been endlessly parodied. It's been endlessly redone.
Oh, no. Not again. Check, please.
So Ian Holm's performance in this as Ash the android is utterly mind-blowing. He's an incredible actor as well. And I love that throughout the film, at the very beginning of it, he just sort of seems like the science officer that nobody really cares for. They think that maybe he's kind of a jerk, he's not very sociable or whatever. And so you're like, yeah, okay, he's not popular, whatever. But then when he turns and he gets violent towards Ripley, it's just like, whoa, what's happening? It seems to really come out of nowhere. I just really appreciate the plot point about this as well, because the idea that androids actually admire these aliens, thinking that they are, the xenomorphs are perfection, is something that really carries through sequels and prequels in this series. So it's a pretty important thing to keep hold of, but Ian Holm is terrifying. Thank you so much.
When you rewatch it knowing he's an android, you can tell he doesn't know how to react with human emotions exactly with everything. He always seems to react with the wrong things. He looks uncomfortable when the group of them are talking and they're debating whether to go down to the planet or not. He has his back turned to everybody. You can tell he's not quite sure what to do. And then when they're on the planet and they're in the spacesuits going to the alien ship, they're out in this storm, with all these rocks and stuff hitting them. Ian Holm's just up in the control area. And he's like, oh, I can see you. And he's all overly happy about it. Even when he attacks Ripley, his facial expressions become very strange.
Yeah.
Where, what is wrong with this guy? Until he starts spitting up white liquid everywhere. And you're like, oh, this guy's not human.
It's a really great point in the movie and very surprising if you haven't seen it. I think that it would have been extremely shocking.
He's also got a lot of shifty eyes. Like when Ripley confronts him in the med bay. And he's looking through a microscope and doing some science studies. And then as soon as she shows up, he turns it all off. And you're like, oh, he knows something.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he let John Hurt go eat dinner.
Yeah. The plotting of Ash and Mother is something that genuinely chills me, because it's showing very much that AI is conspiring against the humans that they're supposed to be working with and working for. And it shows how very powerful that can be and how very dangerous. So I like that that's kind of a subtext in the film. The main enemies are not Ash and Mother, but they're not doing the people on the ship any favors either.
See, I always saw this movie as the main enemy is the company. Ash and Mother, the computer, are kind of extensions of that. They're kind of like the tools that the company is using.
Yes.
The alien is a different kind of threat where it's just an animal trying to survive. It's not doing anything because it dislikes our characters.
Right.
It just sees them as, food or whatever.
Yeah.
Her.
Sustenance to create more little baby aliens.
It could have easily just been like, oh, scary monster gets on the ship and people have to fight for their lives. But they decided to make it about more than just that.
Yeah. My very favorite parts in this movie actually revolve completely around the movements of the alien. At one point, Dallas, he's being warned by the other crew members that the alien is coming for him, that it's closing in, he can't see the alien around him, and then all of a sudden, out of the shadows, whee!
Oh, her.
It's horrifying.
It just,
I really enjoy
it just wants to hug him.
I just want a hug. No biggie. I absolutely love that moment. Towards the end of the film, the alien is about to kill Lambert, and the alien kind of comes at her like this. He's gliding toward her in this very menacing way that I just think is awesome. I look forward to these moments for the whole film.
Her.
Yeah, the alien design in this is so iconic. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact it's so inhuman.
Yes.
Because especially when this movie was made, 1979, so many movie monsters before then were just people in suits. Mm-hmm. And this movie, it was still a guy in a suit, but they did everything they could to film around that fact and only show like parts of the creature and make you realize it's like this thing can just like climb through ducts, it can climb up on the ceiling, it can kind of just crawl towards you.
It's got acid for blood.
The acid blood is just another thing that adds just another layer of danger to this creature. Because so many monsters, it's just like, oh, we try to kill it, but we can't kill it. But this one, if you try to hurt it, you're going to end up destroying your ship. And I think that was just like brilliant on the filmmaker's part to have that inclusion.
Yeah. Why don't you want to just try to shoot it to death?
And I understand it's like, you know, there's no guns on the ship or anything. They don't have any weapons to protect themselves. They have to make weapons for themselves to try to combat this thing. On top of how it just blends into the ship. Because the ship is just so dark. And this is another reason why you can tell the company does not care about its employees. It's like, this ship is not, like, very friendly looking.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's homey.
Yeah, it's very dark. The corridors are dark. There's certain areas that are well lit, but then the rest of the ship is just so dark and uninviting. And especially when you're on a long-term space mission, like in my mind, that's the last thing you want. Yeah. You don't want areas that are just like underlit, because then you really feel isolated. And I always just saw that as the company like not caring about its employees.
Yeah. I agree that it's definitely because of the company not really caring about the employees, but also I think that the intention was that whenever you have people on this ship working, they're going to be sleeping most of the time. You know, there's not going to be a lot of active time living on the ship while you're awake. So they probably also considered it to be unnecessary to really furnish it or make it well lit or enjoyable.
One other thing I really like about this alien creature too is its life cycle. That was another thing that really made this one stand out and was really unique, where you have these eggs where this creature comes out, attaches itself to your face, lays eggs to burst out of someone's body, and then grows up. And it's such a weirdly interesting and complex life cycle for a creature to have these two different versions of itself, where there's like one that's a face hugger and then the other where it's the actual creature itself.
Wait, did they lay eggs inside? It's not just like you have a alien fetus in your chest?
Or yeah, I guess it would be a fetus in the chest. Yeah. I always think of it as an egg, but I guess they're not really eggs.
I mean, neither one is really more appealing than the other.
Yeah. Either way, you're going to die.
Splorsh. There's a lot of nice, icky, viscous textures in this film that I really enjoy. You know, everything is very sticky and spiny. There's a lot of structures that look like bones. H.R. Giger did the designs for the alien and the more, you know, spiny kind of areas of the ship, and I really love that because it certainly adds to the whole atmospheric tone of the film. The last thing that I would like to say is that it really disturbs me that Harry Dean Stanton's character smokes so much inside of a ship. I guess he's not afraid of exposure to oxygen and blowing the ship up, like whatever they're doing at this point in time. It's not a concern, but...
Lambert smokes a lot too.
Oh, Lambert. Why?
Yeah, they both do. I just assumed in the future they just had really good air filters. I mean, obviously they're not concerned about it.
Yeah.
Especially because it is such a large ship. Like, it might not really be an issue.
Maybe it isn't. It was just something while I was watching it this most recent time that I was like, you're smoking on a spaceship. I don't think you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, just overall, this is just a great looking movie. The design is impeccable. The cinematography is great. The acting is great. The plot is simple and straightforward. And I just really appreciate how all these elements fell into place to make this movie the classic that it is.
It truly is. I mean, the film is so good that you don't have to be a horror aficionado to enjoy it. You just have to like good cinema.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on The Horror.
Bye.
Bye.